Hey, St. Patrick's people, friends of St. Patrick's. Good to be with you again in this third installment of Why Church? What are we doing there? And I want to start off by just trying to make give you two pictures of way church is approached in our contemporary society. One way is that you have a number of people who are paid and on staff, call them the clergy and other directors and ministry personnel, who kind of run the show, who put together Sunday morning in particular, worship and that sort of thing. And then you have everybody else, literally everybody else, who show up. And whether the church is, let's say, a little bit more liturgical, have some moving parts, or is more of a sit back and relax, you still get this sense in that kind of breakdown of people and who are involved, that the heavy lifting and the actual worship service is more like a show. It's produced, and the people who come, everybody else, is consuming it. So that's one way to staff and operate a church. Now, there's another way that I prefer, and it's this method, that there isn't a distinct difference between the load of ministry among paid staff and everybody else. That, and this is where I think liturgical churches really help, that what happens on Sunday morning in particular, the worship service, is not mainly performed or done by other people, but it's a combination of all of us coming with our gifts and our presence and our talents to do the worship service. This is why when I say things like liturgy, and I remind you of the idea of what the actual word liturgy means, which is the work of the people, is that we do worship in the worship of God together. So here's the thing. When I decide not to go to church, we are robbing others of our own talents and gifts that we bring to the table. And maybe this is why so many people have chosen to back out of church or not go as much, especially during COVID and after. And they thought, well, I can be a Christian on my own. But here's the thing. Worship is done more biblically when we gather. Scripture tells us, and Jesus told us, that when two or more are gathered in his name, he is there among them. Now, that's not to say God isn't everywhere at all times, but he is present in the gathering of his sheep for worship in a special way that's unique and different. And I would argue more tangible, from everything from the sacrament to music to the preaching of his word. So when we ask the question, why go to church and why be involved in church, I would also ask the question, what kind of church are you typically going to? Because if you're going to the type of church that's high in production and that is primarily done and led by paid staff, well, that might be part of the problem, because people may not notice you're not there when you're not there. And what do you add when you actually come? But if you're part of a church that needs your help to come, that your singing, your presence, your energy, your encouragement, all those things, you're needed there to make the worship service be what it's supposed to be, then you will be noticed when you're not there, and you will be missed. And so part of the challenge here is actually to point out what I love so much about St. Patrick's. Well, not only are we a small congregation, but because everybody is lifting a little bit of the load when it comes to worship, you can't hide when you show up. We know you're there if you come. But I think that's the way church is supposed to be. It's not a formal production done by professionals. No. It's a gathering of all believers bringing our own skills and spiritual gifts to worship together. Now, does that make the service maybe not as grand as some of these maybe mega churches who have all the different resources and production quality? Maybe. But those kind of churches, you can kind of come and go as you please. I would challenge you not to allow yourself to do that, no matter what church you go to, but especially for the people of St. Patrick's. Committing and coming every Sunday to bring your spiritual gifts is incredibly important, because it's not just about you. It's about all of us. And so don't miss out on that. So that's number 3. I'll probably do one more on why church and that sort of thing. And we'll talk more about sacraments and whatnot. But I hope this was encouraging to you, and I hope to see you Sunday. So God bless you, and hope you have a great week.